All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you!
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
What up, horrorheads, and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Daniel Labona.
And I'm David Ulloa.
And, you know, it's just been the theme for 2025 that life will not take its damn foot off our necks. Like, it's just, it is the Gilda Radner bit, right? Rosanna, Dana, if it ain't one thing, it's another, right? It's
Thank you for that.
It's, you know, we're here though, and we're doing this, and this is one that people have been asking about since it was in theaters. But as you guys know, we very rarely do things that are in theaters. We wait for them to come streaming. We like it to reach a big audience before we get there. If you go back, if you're listening to this one right now and you have not heard our Talk to Me episode, I would suggest you pause this, go back a little bit, listen to our Talk to Me episode first, because this is basically going to be an episode of us saying, at least from my perspective, the Philippou brothers have done it again. We are reviewing Bring Her Back this week. So in a section that we're calling Back to the Land Down Under, the Philippou brothers do an amazing job of making you feel Australian when you watch their movies. These movies are relentlessly and unapologetically Australian in what they do and the characters that they present, but we'll get to all of that. Just kind of tell me, what are your initial thoughts here on Bring Her Back, Dave?
So to your point, my memory issues are well documented on this show.
Correct.
I remembered, because I wrote it down, that we were doing Bring Her Back, and so I just looked it up and was like, okay, play. I had totally forgotten that this was the Philippou brothers, and I'm watching this thing and I'm like, is this British? I'm like, no. Is this Australian? I was like, is this the Philippou brothers? And so I looked it up and I was like, it fucking is the Philippou brothers. So I was so excited once I finally realized what it was that I was watching, because it felt vaguely reminiscent of Talk to Me, but still fresh,
Right.
and offensively Australian. I love watching their movies because it brings back to me that feeling that I got when I was just a wee little Cuban lad watching The Rescuers Down Under on Disney VHS. I'd open up that clamshell, that disgusting yellow, because it was all, you know, the sun would beat down on it because you had to leave it out. You never put it back on the shelf. I'd open up that clamshell. I'm like, you know, good day, mate. Time to hunt us some lizard eggs or whatever the fuck it was. They were. It was an eagle egg.
They were after some giant eagle. Yeah,
it was a giant eagle egg. Yeah. So Joanna, get the eggs. I can remember that, but I can't remember what we're doing next week on the show. Anyway, wow, this thing blew me away. I know we don't compare things here, but it would be really difficult to compare this to their freshman effort, Talk to Me. Themes are very similar. I have to imagine that the Philippou brothers have struggled with grief and bereavement in their life. Hard to watch. I think that this is,
oh my God,
this is a movie that is brutal, not just in its depiction of violence, both physical and emotional, but it is brutal in the way that it assaults you as the viewer.
Yes.
It's not just refusing to pull punches on its characters, it refuses to pull punches on you. And that was one of the things that, like, I have not been able to stop thinking about this movie since I saw it early last week. I saw it on Monday of last week in preparation for last week's show. And when we canceled or postponed, I thought, this is good because now I can really sort of give this movie the thought that I want to give it. And usually when that happens, I forget about the damn thing. But that didn't happen this time. This time I couldn't get it out of my head, man.
Yeah, this movie, you put it very well in the fact that this movie is abusive to the viewer, which is a vital part of the storytelling of this movie. You know, there are often times where some sort of abuse may, emotional, physical, domestic, whatever, where it's a plot device and you're like, oh God, that sucks. But this movie manages to encompass you in what it's doing and its depiction of isolation and abuse and trauma. And as much as we've talked about trauma and grief and these things, this movie did a lot to suck you into it. Like, it didn't just make you feel, it didn't just make you sympathetic about the characters. There's a forced empathy that comes with this movie because you're so involved in everything that you feel the psychological abuse that's going on. And you're right, this movie is just brutal in its depiction of that. And yes, there are some extremely violent things, one in particular that we'll get to, but there are some very violent things, not overly gory, but just very, very tight with what they do that kind of hits you on this guttural level. Since we've done Talk to Me, I was listening to another podcast where they did an interview with the Philippou brothers as this came out. And this is when this was in theaters. And I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. It's not like we're not getting a bump. They're not getting a bump. Last podcast on the left, we've mentioned them on here before. Hunger and I are big fans. And they were fortunate enough to get an interview with the Philippou brothers. And they were just talking to them about just this movie and the things that they do. And when you finish this episode, if what I'm about to say doesn't make any sense to you, go find that episode of Last Podcast. So the Philippou brothers are walking, talking Looney Tunes. These guys are absolutely insane. Like, you watch Talk to Me, you watch this, and you think that these guys are going to be these dark, brooding, like Ari Aster types where just like the world is too serious or they're too serious for the world. Absolutely not. These guys are insane. Like, they're making Talk to Me and they're making Bring Her Back, and they're having a genuinely good time doing it. Not even just reveling in what they're doing to people who are watching the movie, but they're just crazy guys. They're currently making a documentary about deathmatch wrestling. Huge deathmatch wrestling fan myself. Absolutely. Very excited for it. But not only are they making a documentary about deathmatch wrestling, one of them was like, you know what would really sell this? If I became a deathmatch wrestler. I cannot explain to you how insane these guys are. And it's so bizarre to hear them talk. And they're just like laughing about just the god awful things that they're doing to all of our brains with these movies, because the Philippou brothers seem to be two guys that every day they wake up and get to go to work is the best day of their life. Like, they genuinely they are two guys that are grabbing life by the cojones and just squeezing. Like, they're going to get theirs. They're going to get every bit they can. And so I was already excited going into this movie because of how much we love Talk to Me. And then then I heard that interview and I was like, man, these guys are great. And then watching this, man, as soon as it started, I was like, okay, here we go. Right. This is basically the ride I thought I was going to get into. I will admit, other than one initial trailer, I managed to avoid everything about this movie. I had
Likewise.
absolutely no, and credit where credit's due. You probably could have watched multiple trailers and had no idea what this movie was about. They did a very good job with super creepy trailers. So
Mhm.
I went into this basically blind. I knew that there were some kids, and I knew there was a lady, and I knew there was a third kid who seemed really creepy. Like, that was it.
Mhm.
It's the only way to watch this movie. So again, if you have not seen this and you're listening to us talk, turn us off right now, unless you have no intentions of watching Bring Her Back, because nothing we do is going to make this movie any better for you. This, like, before seeing it. If you listen to this before you watch it, it will be at your own detriment. This movie just it kept me guessing. Even when the credits rolled, I was still kind of, wait a minute, what? Like, I went back and rewatched the last 45 minutes, so half of this movie, the day after I watched it initially, just to kind of drink it all in. And while I have some theories, I do think that there's an excellent job here of kind of leaving not open-ended, because everything kind of comes to a conclusion, but you're allowed to kind of draw your own conclusions on some stuff, which I think they did brilliantly. So, I mean, as we're sitting here talking about it, let's get into it. Let's talk the story of Bring Her Back in a section that really can only aptly be titled Grief Again. And we keep waiting for that tipping point, right? It seemed like it had started to come back with some of these movies we did earlier in the year where grief and trauma had just become a trope. So what do you think about what the Philippou brothers did for us here with Bring Her Back to subvert the fact that this is becoming old hack?
I think it's integral to the story here. You don't have a story without the grief. And it's very different from some movies that use um, a loss as a plot device. It's a MacGuffin. It's like, oh, hey, so this person dies, and now we have this story of some supernatural thing or whatever it is. What's really interesting to me is the way in which grief is explored here, because as someone who has spent a lot of his adult life um, speaking with therapists, because I value mental health. Um, Grief doesn't look the same every single time. In fact, it rarely does look the same. Um, and I can tell you, um, I lost two grandparents within 5 months of each other, and the grief that I felt for both of them was drastically different. And when I think about them today, I still don't think about them in the same way. So, so I can tell you from my own personal, like, anecdotal experience, so take that for what it's worth. Um, Grief does not manifest itself in the same way all the time. So that we're getting another movie from the Philippou brothers that is centered around grief, to me, that's like saying, okay, so it's another sci-fi movie, or
Right.
it's another fantasy movie, or it's another action movie.
Oh, Ridley
Um,
Scott made another sci-fi. Who saw it coming, you know?
right, right. Tell me what Blade Runner and Alien have in common,
Exactly.
except for the fact that they're both directed by the same guy. So, I loved the exploration of grief here, particularly that the grief was so different for everyone here. Everyone was grieving in a drastically different way. We had the two orphaned kids, Andy and
Piper.
Piper, thank you. And they both had drastically different memories and experiences with their father. One was abused, the other one was loved, and the way that Billy tried to protect Piper from that, I thought was heroic and tragic all at once.
Yeah.
And ultimately his refusal to communicate with her about this, because at the end of the day, communication is everything, whether we're talking about grief or we're talking about wanting to grab tacos for dinner. Communication is everything.
Yeah.
So and if you don't believe me, try telling the person you're going out to dinner with that you want tacos without telling them you want tacos. Just doesn't work. Just say the fucking thing. So I loved the exploration of grief here, and chief among them, the one that to me I related to best, was the amazing, the incomparable Sally Hawkins as
Oh my
Laura.
God.
I hopefully will never understand that grief. I don't want
Right.
to know what it is. But a student asked me, and this is related, I promise. A student asked me the other day who my favorite character in Lord of the Rings was. And I said Boromir. And they said, Boromir, why? And I said, because that's who I see myself as. I see myself as the guy who will do the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Right.
I will always have my family, my people's backs. And due to that, I don't think straight. And once I realize that what I've done has caused more harm than good, I will do everything in my power to fix that, to remedy that. And now I'm working twice as hard as I was before. But it's
Yeah.
fine because I got to take care of my people. So I recognize that I'm flawed, right? Who I see myself represented in this movie is her. And I know that if I got even a whiff of a possibility of bringing back a child that I had lost, I would do it.
Yeah.
And everyone be damned, I don't give a fuck. I need them back.
Yeah, so we're presented with the story of Piper and Andy who lose their father. We come to find out who's actually Piper's stepfather, right? So they're step siblings. And as the movie progresses, we learn about the differences between their relationship with their father. They're brought in by Sally Hawkins as Laura, and she brings them in, and we start to learn that she's also grieving. And you start to kind of put this puzzle together about what all she's doing, because it's easy to off the cuff say that Laura is a terrible individual, right? That's the easiest, like lamest hot take. Not even a hot take, right? That's just the easiest take. It's like, oh, she's awful, and look at what she's willing to do. And so as the story progresses, we see her try to separate them and eventually try to use Piper in an effort to bring back this other daughter that she had lost, hence bring her back. All the while, we eventually find out that it involves the sacrifice of two different children. There's a lot to it. And it's all
That's how they get you.
Yeah, it's all kind of confusing, but also pretty straightforward, which is bizarre. Like, they never give us the inner workings of how this is supposed to go down. We're just kind of told, like, this is what's going to happen. We're never given an in-depth backstory about the not a cult from the very beginning of the movie that's making these VHS tapes that apparently
which
didn't
we
come.
don't need. I don't know why so many filmmakers get bogged down in this.
Right.
I don't need to know what fucking demon it is. Do we know who Pazuzu is in that first Exorcist? Fuck no. We don't. All we know is that this shit fucked up, and
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Right.
All right, that's all we know, and that's the case here. All right, they make it Russian. That's as foreign as you need to get for
Correct.
me to be like, this shit's fucking bad.
Right. A lot of Russia out there. Like, it's a big country, you know? Like, sure, there are places where strange things are happening. So, as it progresses, and we're kind of seeing how all these people are working through these things. You're right. It would be completely impossible to separate this totally and wholly from Talk to Me, which was also an exploration of grief. But much in the way that when we discussed Smile and Smile 2, they came at those things from two very different ways. It was very interesting to see the way that Laura is presented. And it's not just that her grief leads to something bad happening. It's the fact that her grief is being channeled in her mind as love in a way that should conquer all. That her grief is being processed in her mind as this absolutely uncontrollable amount of love that she has nowhere to put in this world. And so while what she is doing to all three of these kids involved is terrible, there's multiple moments. I mean, till the end where she feels justified in what she's doing, but while it is ultimately selfish, it never comes off as selfish. It really comes off as her just trying to right a moment that the universe wronged her. And if she loved somebody so much, how could they be taken from her? And now she has this opportunity to fix that. And she is still so full of love. She needs a vessel to pour it into. And but the only acceptable vessel would be for Kathy to come back. It has to be Kathy. Kathy is the only person, living thing capable of accepting this overwhelming love that she has, that she spent decades pouring into other people with no return on investment because she was a counselor. With Kathy, she finally was getting back what she was putting in. And so while, yes, ultimately what she was doing to these people was terrible, I think that it would be a really shitty take, which obviously you're not taking this since you see yourself in her. It would be just an absolutely shitty take to view her as some irredeemable piece of shit that was just out to kill kids and get her way.
Right.
It's that strange thing of how you process. When you go back to Talk to Me, the main character, I forget her name now, but she was processing in her own way where she just wanted that one last conversation. She wanted that one last moment. That's not what Laura was after. Laura was after a lifetime of moments that she felt she had been wrongfully robbed of. And so there's this really interesting take on grief here as the story is presented, which is, how far would you go? And there are movies that we watch where we root for the people who would stop at nothing for revenge or to get what was taken from them. You root for the main guy in Death Wish, and all he's doing is killing people that wronged him. But you're rooting for him because those people are bad. Now, the people that Laura's taking out along the way, they're not bad. They haven't done anything wrong to her, but we're not 7 degrees of separation away from Death Wish in this. This is someone who's willing to kill because of what has been done to hurt them and wrong them. And ultimately, she would get some sort of resolution, whereas, the others are just revenge stories. I've seen 2 different versions of I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
And I'm never once like, maybe she took this too far. No, the fuck she didn't. You know, it's just it's interesting. Let me I guess in case I need to say it, I'm in no way advocating that I think she was right in kidnapping and trying to kill these other children. I'm just saying that if you take 30 seconds to remove yourself from the idea of how horrible it is to be killing children, you can realize that this isn't that different than all of those revenge movies where we cheer every single engine block that gets dropped on somebody's head.
There is no human antagonist to the story.
Correct.
And that to me is number one, it makes for an incredibly complex story because no matter what angle you look at the story from, there's something to take away. Because we like heroes, we want heroes, and the reason why the anti-hero has in the last 40 or 50 years become so popular is because we got that's my cat's asshole. we got tired of seeing the same heroic dude over and over again. Whether it's Superman or the Phantom or Flash Gordon or Luke Skywalker or Indiana Jones or whoever. Those stories, they work because they're simple. We enjoy them because they're simple. But how much conversation can you have about a hero who's like, I see bad, I go do good?
Right.
It kind of ends there. Whereas a detective like Jake Gittes from Chinatown. Now, is he a good dude? He's not a good dude. He's
No.
definitely the protagonist of the movie, but he's a sleazy fucker. And Deadpool, I think, is probably the most modern example that I can think of. He's not a good dude. He's got great intentions, but I don't think he would know how to be good if he tried desperately. So I love the fact that in this story we have 4 really broken characters. One in the little boy, shit, what's his name?
Ollie.
Connor, right?
Ollie?
Ollie. Yeah, Oliver. Who we don't really know anything about, you know, victim of circumstance. But between Piper and Andy and Laura, we have characters who are never fully right, never fully wrong, and each feels justified in whatever it is that they're doing. That said, Piper is definitely the pure character here. And there's her blindness is the thing that makes her better than everyone else.
Right.
She can see what everyone else can't see. Except that she doesn't have the trauma that Andy does, and therefore can't see the things that Andy sees in Laura.
Yeah.
It's really kind of masterful the way that they handled those 3 characters. And you want to talk about economy of characters. I mean, this is a 4 character story where 90% of the heavy lifting is done by 3 characters.
Yeah, there's also a really interesting idea here that's taken to a very literal level that I found fascinating. So, along with me, if you will, I'm always fascinated by the idea of say a Dance Moms show, right? Or a show about beauty pageant moms, right? And you see all of these people who are pouring one unmet desire or another into their child. Like I could have been something, but I wasn't, and now I'm gonna make sure that my kid is. And so there's always this there's no lack of television shows that are about parents living vicariously through the children, reality shows, by the way. And so essentially they are taking their children and creating a vessel for their unmet need and desire, and then raising them to be this certain thing. What's really interesting about the themes presented here in this movie is the way that they took that very literally. They took a child and literally put another one inside of it to grow before then trying to put it into another one. They took the idea of using your children to live vicariously through, and they made them quite literal physical vessels for your deepest unmet desire, which is to have a loved one back. It took this idea of a child being nothing more than an extension of what you feel like you're owed, and it made it physical. It made it something that was very, very real. It wasn't just about desire. It's like that child is actually growing my number one wish, supposedly, apparently, also just the beauty of how, like we talked about earlier, how all of that is never, we don't know. We don't know if Ollie had managed to puke into Pipe's mouth if she would have become Kathy. Like, we're still not 100% sure on that. We just know that a lot of weird shit was happening. But ultimately, this idea of using children to meet what didn't go right about your life, taking it and making it so in your face and so physical that this feels very damning to those people who live vicariously through their children, which is honestly like it's a pretty disgusting thing for a lot of these people who reach these top echelons of doing these things at a professional level. It gets really gross. Like, as much as I'm fascinated by those things, I can never bring myself to watch much of it because it just feels awful. It took that and it made you see how gross it is. It made it physically, universally gross to see a dead body being chewed on, a child puking blood and guts. It made it to where it was universally gross, not just a weird feeling you had. And I love the way they did that.
Well, I love this point, by the way. You're in a college town.
Yes.
And I'm sure you see this all the time with people coming in to relive the glory days.
Oh yeah.
People coming in to relive the glory days. I teach at a high school that has a long history of athletes being drafted to Division I schools. And I've seen the fathers who their number one desire is for their son to go on to a Division I school and play ball. I had a student a couple of years ago now who hated, like literally hated playing football. And I asked him one day because he wrote about it enough in his essays. And I was like, dude, why are you doing it then? And he was like, I have to, because it's what he wants for me. And it was the saddest thing I had ever heard someone say. Like, Jesus, man, like this. What do we do to our children?
Right.
And it's not intentional. We pass that trauma on to them. I love that aspect of, well, not that I love it, but I love the way that aspect of this movie is explored. that I, as the parent, have so much desire that I can't see your desire. Because in my mind, it's for you. So why would it not be a good thing? It's what I want for you. And what I want for you has to be good because I'm your father, I'm your mother, I'm this, I'm that. We rationalize it in so many different ways. And in the end, the last thing that we think about is what does this child want?
Right.
I can guarantee you that Ollie did not want to eat wood chips.
Yeah.
As someone who's eaten mulch before, not willingly, but because you play you play enough football in the park, and you're gonna eat dirt and you're gonna eat mulch at some point when you get tackled from behind. It's not yummy, not
Right.
even a little bit. No chance. The way that and this is something, I mean, you work in early childhood education, so this is something I'm sure you see a lot. This is something that bothers me when I see it. Something like it's a it's a need. We're not talking about like a want, like I need to go to the bathroom. And then someone tells you like, just wait.
Right.
Indefined amount of time. Just wait. The fuck am I supposed to do with this? I have a need right now. I need to eat. But no, you gotta wait because I've got plans for you, right? Because there's just one more beauty pageant. You can eat after that. That's exactly what the fuck that was.
Yeah.
Um, Absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad that you brought that up, man.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that portrayed because like I said, it takes that it like I said, it takes that feeling that you get where you just kind of feel gross and it makes it to where it's like, oh, now it looks gross. Like now I'm seeing this. Speaking of looking gross,
Mhm.
the moments of just straight up violence that we do get in this movie, we talked
Mm.
about, we talked about a lot of the emotional brutality. Let's take a second to really to talk about some of the physical brutality that we get in this movie because there are some things in this where things happen to characters that just that I mean, one in particular
Yeah.
when Ollie bites that knife, man, I I was like I did the thing where you're sitting in the seat and your whole body like straightens up and you're just like and you're trying to like get away from the TV, but you're still trying to watch. I was like smacking my notebook on my leg. That shit, and you look back on it and you're like, was it is while this angel, this demon, this thing is inside of Oliver, is it that they're just unaware of what any of this is, or was it a thing where it was trying to be done to be out? But it ultimately doesn't matter because the what was presented to us in that scene and then what it allowed to happen afterwards was far more important than to why it happened. But God, how do you get those sound effects? Like that is what I assume it actually sounds like to chew on a knife, and I'm hearing it again as I talk about it, and that was brutal.
Mhm.
Like they did such a good job with this stuff.
Um, it was disturbing.
Yeah,
I think that's the only way to describe it is the violence in this is um bombastic. It's not there until it is, and then it's explosive. You find and this is something that I think the Philippou brothers did exceptionally in Talk to Me and is done even better here is the building of tension and the explosive payoff. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. That scene where he's chewing on the knife. Um, the tension starts with him opening up the door.
Right.
And then there's about, I don't know, it must be 3 or 4 minutes of just on the edge of your seat, like, what the fuck is going to happen here?
Yeah.
And I my eyes were darting across the screen constantly. What am I supposed to be looking at here? Because there's almost nothing going on. And yet everything was going on. It was so brilliant. And I've been in Andy's shoes before, where I do something that I think is innocent, that I think is I'm doing the right thing here, that suddenly just explodes in your face. And all of a sudden you're looking down, you're like, I'm missing my fucking hand. Like how did this happen? Like how do I have a stump for a hand now? How do we reattach this thing, right? And how do we fix this? And then the realization that sometimes there's things that you can't fix.
Right.
And that's something that I think unfortunately we don't talk about enough. You have to be so careful in life because I mean, I'm sure this is something you've talked about with your friends. Me and my buddies, we've talked about how, like, take any one night in our lives from the age of about 17 to like 24. One thing goes different, gone, dead.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because we don't think about the future at that age. But I've seen so many, like, I the only social media I really enjoy is Reddit. It's probably because I'm a dirtbag, but I don't know how many times I've seen on something like the instant regret subreddit where like someone's playing with fireworks and all of a sudden this guy's just fucking dead and you're like, whoa, what the fuck did I just see? And it
Yeah.
really is that fast that your life can change. And if you're not watching yourself and checking yourself, gone.
Yeah.
Just gone. And that's something that I think this movie, it seems mean on the surface, but it's not mean. Terrifier's mean.
Right.
This is not mean. This is realistic.
Yes.
Where if you have a child who is not neuronormative in the way that Ollie, for me at least, I saw him as a child who was neurodivergent. If you have someone like that in your life and you're not on your game, you're at fault. You're responsible. And whatever happens, there's no coming back from this thing.
Yeah. Well, and and then the what's really just fascinating to me is, so you take this scene where we see Ollie chewing a knife, you hear it crunching on his teeth, you see it split up through his gum and lips, or through his gums and lip, and you're just cringing at how awful it is, because there's so much to it in such a short span. You see so much, and it hurts, and it's so much. But then you take and you fast forward about 25 minutes in the movie, and they manage to give me the same feeling with a split-second moment, which is when Laura punches Piper in the eye.
Oh, yeah.
While she's sleeping. And again, just the way it's presented, like you get, like, I had a moment. You always know that something has been done well when you're like, holy shit, did she really just clock her in the eye?
I had to rewatch it.
Yes. Like between the way it happened and the way it sounded, as someone who has punched people in the face and been punched in the face, I think they just recorded the sound of somebody getting punched in the face and timed it perfectly. That's exactly what it sounds like. And
Yeah.
it's just this split second thing. But as it happens, and as simplistic as it is, I got the same feeling. It was like, oh God, no, you're a grown woman, and that is a child. That is a 13-year-old child, and she just waylays her face. And it's again like we talk sometimes about how important it is to be simple with special effects sometimes.
Mhm.
I don't know that it could have been any more simple than however they did that, and that perfectly placed sound effect. Like
Yeah.
that was just, and it hit. It wasn't as shocking, like visually, as the chewing on the knife, but gutturally it
Right.
felt the same. And it's so bizarre to see those two extremes executed so perfectly that you can get the same reaction out of somebody getting punched in the eye as somebody splitting their face open with a knife. And in my stomach, I felt the exact same way after each of those scenes.
And like you stop and you think, we never see all of Kathy.
Right.
We never see all of Kathy. We get a decent glimpse of her once, and it's fast and out of focus. And we certainly never see what Oliver is doing to her. The other scene that comes to mind says it's always, it's weird because there's violence that you see and then there's violence that you don't see. And the violence that you don't see is the emotional one.
Right.
So like anything concerning Kathy, we don't actually see. Andy and his dad, we never actually see that violence being done. And I think that narratively that's brilliant because like if you have trauma in your life, I can't see that.
Right.
If I have trauma in my life, you can't see that either. You have to take me at my word. And if you have your own trauma in your life, maybe you don't believe people when they talk to you, you know? So, the other thing that to me was just like, oh my God, what are we doing to our children? Is when Ollie starts to eat himself, he's peeling off his flesh. And it was the sort of thing that this is why I got neurodivergent from him. Like I've seen um students that I've had, people in my own life who are neurodivergent that will harm themselves because they simply don't know how to deal with a certain situation.
Pain stemming.
Yeah, yeah, it's pain stemming, and it can be so bad that you don't recover from that particular stem. So, it was so hard to watch at times because you're rooting for everyone. You're
Yeah.
rooting for everyone, including Laura. I was rooting for Laura the whole time.
Which is so weird because you're not wrong. Like,
Yeah,
and like I said, and on the surface, it seems like that should be the wrong take, right? It seems like that should be this universally wrong thing to say. But you can't
yeah,
bring yourself to say that she didn't have a point. Right? It's just like the best comic book villains are the ones that when they monologue, you take at least a second and go, huh.
motherfucker's right though, right?
Oh, right, right. It's like Magneto's done it, like
Yeah,
Cyclops at his worst has done it. Like there are all these moments where you're just like one of my personal Ozymandias.
yeah,
Ozymandias puts it out there and you're like, motherfucker, I don't.
yeah. No, for me, you hit it the first time. Magneto is quite literally my second favorite comic book character. Like there's Captain America, and then there's Magneto, and they're like 1A and 1B. And it just depends on how good a person I'm feeling that day.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting like that to see that all come across like that because again, this movie just unflinchingly approaches so many of these things. The constant theme of gaslighting for good or
Mhm.
bad that runs throughout this movie, right? I mean, because I get that it sounds horribly incorrect to say gaslighting for good, but is there another more accurate word for what he did to Piper? Right? Not Oliver,
Yep.
Andy. What Andy did to Piper. Andy allowed Piper to live this illusion of the saint that her father was, and continuously only fed her the information that would allow her to have that. So if there is a such thing as positive gaslighting, which ultimately, no, it doesn't do anybody any good to have a false representation of what someone is, because then when they do find out, it's only that much worse. But if there is a such thing as a positive spin on gaslighting, it would be what Andy did to Piper. Whereas what Laura is doing to Piper, poor Piper, just poor Piper.
Yeah.
Whereas what Laura's doing in spinning this narrative of the fact that Andy has never fully recovered from the one awful thing that he did, and has dragged all of this up. It also really does a lot to paint this picture of Laura as an unreliable narrator.
Mhm.
This idea that, like you said, we never get a full glimpse of what her relationship with Kathy was. We see that she's willing to lie and hurt people to get what she wants. So it's not outside the pale to think that her trauma has colored this image she had of what her and Kathy's relationship was into something euphoric when it wasn't. And so while we do only get these really small chunks of what her and Kathy were, at the same time, the character that we're getting developed out of Laura always makes you wonder, was it really that good? Was it really that special? Was it really, was it really as perfect as she says it is? Because it never is, right? It's never the way that you remember it. Like anybody who's ever walked away from a relationship, unless it was just something that was extremely toxic that left you in a bad place. It's never exactly and even if it was, it's never exactly the way that you remember it. It's always colored by what sticks out the most. And so there's an interesting element of unreliable narrator out of Laura here that I think fits into the entire theme of gaslighting as a social norm, and how fascinating that is, where it's also an interesting thing because we talked about tipping points earlier. We're reaching a tipping point on that phrase where it's just being used so often that it's starting to lose meaning, right? Because anytime anything doesn't go your way, it's like, oh, stop gaslighting me. Calm down. I'm just
Right.
talking, And so there was a really interesting spin on it in this, and showing it from two different perspectives.
You were talking about gaslighting for good. I think it's all about perspective. And whenever you lie to someone, whether you're doing it to protect them or you're doing it to harm them, you're doing it because you think a certain thing. You're not taking into account what that person thinks, or what that person wants. And I think the easiest way to think about it is, now adults, if there were children in the room, I don't know why they're listening to the show,
or might have seen this movie,
but you might want to put earmuffs on. All right. Santa Claus. We lie to our children and we tell them that there's this jolly fat guy who every year will come and bring them gifts if they're good. And sure, they get something out of it. We get something out of it too. And
Yeah.
it's not just the gift giving, right? Because I always love the feeling that I get when I see my children happy. And even if it's fleeting, you get them a gift and they're happy. So I'm happy. But we also use it as a way to police them.
Yes.
Be good because Santa Claus is watching.
Put the damn elf on the shelf. He'll tell
Right.
Santa.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Gestapo. Yeah, the Gestapo's coming. That's what the fuck the elf on the shelf is. When I told Link about Santa Claus, I could see it in his face. I don't know that he knows the term gaslighting, but it's exactly what he felt.
Right.
He felt like I'd been gaslighting him, like his mom had been gaslighting him his whole life, and he's not wrong. Is it innocent? Sure. Will he have to go to therapy for it? Probably not.
I'd like to hope not.
I'd like to hope not. Yeah. and let's be honest, if that's what you're talking about in therapy, had a pretty damn good childhood.
Yeah, you know, if that's as deep as your well goes, you know?
But I think the point is made crystal clear with that example. We make decisions based off what we think is best for someone else and not what they want. And I can tell you, anytime that I have found out I've been lied to, I've been upset about it, whether it was to protect me or not. I don't like it. And I don't know Piper because she's not a real person, but I'd wager that she would have wanted to know. And I get that sentiment from her in the movie. She would have wanted to know what Andy's dad was really like.
Yeah.
And that her relationship would have been markedly different had she known that. Again, I say, you want tacos, just say you want fucking tacos. Communication is everything. It is absolutely everything, especially when grief is at play. When we are dealing with trauma, talk about the fucking trauma. Stop internalizing it. Doesn't make you a bigger man. All right. Because I can tell you, I am definitely a physically smaller man than anyone listening to this show. I am hobbit sized. And if you internalize your trauma, I can guarantee you I'm a bigger man than you are.
There you go. So we've spent a lot of time talking about the characters here. So let's talk about just let's look at it from an acting perspective. Let's look at what some of these performers gave us in these roles. So in a section that we are calling Aussies and Brits, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Aussies and Brits. In a section that we're calling Aussies and Brits, we said it's economy of characters, right? We got 4 people that are worth talking about here. We've talked about what their characters do. Let's talk about what these actors gave us in these performances. Who do you want first?
Okay. I don't care how low hanging the fruit might be. Sally Hawkins is fucking amazing.
Yes.
She is she's so good at everything. I can watch her in anything. She's my fucking Meryl Streep, dude. She's so damn good. Her ability to feel like a bad guy even when she's not. That scene at the father's funeral when she's telling him, like, you gotta look at him, you gotta see him, because you're not, you're gonna regret it later. And then she tells him, like, kiss him, it's custom. It seems so evil.
Yeah.
And when you have seen the whole movie, I don't think it's evil. I don't think it's evil at all. I think it's misguided, but evil? No. I I am a person who struggled with grief. I mentioned the 2 dead grandparents within 5 months of each other. I was in therapy for a long time with that shit. And when you don't deal with your trauma, you turn into Laura.
Yeah.
And I think that might be my biggest fear, is that trauma and grief specifically debilitates me to the point where I become a Laura for someone. And the way that she portrayed Laura was, I think, realistic. It was beautiful. It was sad. It was disgusting. I hope I never get there. And I feel like performances like this are the kinds that wake people up and let them see, like, oh, what am I doing to someone in my life? I've been a fan of Sally Hawkins for a long time, and I think this might be the first time we talk about her on this show.
I think so. I really do think.
We didn't do The Shape of Water, did we?
No.
Because I think that might be the only one that she's done that we could have talked about. Oh no, she was in Godzilla.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we're certainly not talking about Paddington on this show. So so I love that we have finally been able to talk about her, because I really do think that she is one of the best actresses working today. And this performance is, in my opinion, that this is another like Oscar worthy performance. I don't give a fuck that it's a small independent horror movie from Australia. This performance is out of hand good.
Yeah. So from somebody with the insane pedigree that Sally Hawkins has, I'm going to go to the other side, and I want to talk about Billy Barrett as Andy. So Billy Barrett has like 3 credits to his name when you pull up his IMDb, right? Like the guy he played like a street urchin in the new Mary Poppins, the one with I think Emily Blunt was in it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like he played like a street urchin
actually.
in that. And he's in like some Apple TV series. Like those are his credits. He was phenomenal in this. Again, we're never shown exactly what he went through with the dad. We're given glimpses of flashbacks. We're given the current effects of his trauma with him wetting the bed and being afraid to take showers, and the vision that he has of his dad. These things, we get all of that. But I never for 1 second doubted his sincerity in what he was talking about happened with his dad, and how he felt about what had happened between him and Piper. And when that phone call that he makes when they're on their way to the house before the finale of this movie,
it's so heartbreaking.
And he's leaving Piper that voicemail, and he is just a wreck. And he's like, Pipe, I know you think he was a good man, but he wasn't. And he's just weeping into the phone while she's playing, visually impaired soccer or whatever that is, right? With the bell and the ball and all that. And she eventually gets to hear it at the end. But that voicemail, man, it just ripped my heart out of my chest. It absolutely destroyed him to have to destroy the image she had of his dad. This is somebody who seems to have constantly put the needs of someone that he felt was in his care above his own. He was just so damn good. And the way that you're watching him mentally break while asserting that he's not mentally breaking, because he's not mentally breaking in the way that Laura is presenting that he is mentally breaking, but he is breaking down as a human being. Everything about this boy's world is imploding in a matter of shit. This movie probably takes place over the course of 2 weeks, maybe. And and a week of that is when he's in the hospital after the shower scene.
Mhm.
And so you're watching his world more so than anyone else's be destroyed. And you're watching him try to take it on the chin because he's got to look out for Piper. Anybody with younger siblings, with kids, with family, younger relatives, just anyone that you have ever felt was in your charge has lived some fraction of this. You know, as a dad, you're the one who makes the sandwich with the two heels of the loaf of bread, right? Because nobody else wants them. Yeah, that is a ridiculously slim comparison to this, but it's those little things that you do as a dad. You know, like it's those things that you do as a big brother where you miss out on something because you've got to give a ride. You know, when I was in high school and I finally got my license and my brother was in middle school, yeah, I would miss out on things because he needed rides places and my parents worked. So yeah, sorry guys, can't make it. Gotta, take little brother to baseball practice, whatever. These things happen. And so there's a relatability in that, but then also just the gut punch of seeing how awful it can actually be, right? Because when you're in high school, that feels like end of the world shit. Like, no, I can't take him to the middle school dance. Like, I've got friends that are out eating pizza, and that's where I should be. And it feels like that is just the worst thing your parents could have asked you to do.
Yeah.
And then you see something like this, and it's like, oh, holy shit, my perspective on everything was wrong always. Like this is what it's like to have to sacrifice for a younger sibling. But he gave all of that, and he, like, when he's working out and he's just kind of freaking out, which we eventually find out probably has something to do with whatever she was serving to him as like creatine, because when the social worker's coming back, she washes it down the sink. So yes, it was added to by all of that, but man, just the way that he laid all of that out was so good, and I felt just so awful for him from beginning to end. There wasn't a moment where this dude caught a break, not once for the entire movie. And the way that Billy Barrett put it all out there, and you just watched him lose everything, was incredible.
It's I remember being that age and feeling like the whole world was against me.
Mm-hmm.
And like no matter what I did, it was the wrong thing. He does such a great job of doing that with dignity.
Right.
Because I mean, it's my job. I teach in a high school filled with boys. It's an all boys school, and so I see that on a daily basis. These kids who have so much going on in their lives, and so few people give a fuck at all about what it is that's going on. Um, Sometimes even their own parents and teachers, which we see in Billy. So I or Andy, sorry.
Yeah.
What a performance, man. Absolutely. I can't wait to see him act in more stuff. Because he's young, man. He's very young. And I'm looking at all my gray as I say that. I'm like, man, I used to be the same age as the young guy in the movie. So damn good. So damn good.
So I mean, Piper, little bit. We've talked to two, I think, that had the most. I think that when we were doing story, we really gave all there is to talk about with Oliver there. So I mean, that's it. That wraps it up. That really kind of gets us to a point where now it's time for us to rate this thing. So it's been a while. Let's give you a reminder. We never rate a movie against other movies. Yes, we've talked about plenty of others, and we've definitely referenced Talk to Me. But when we rate a movie, we only rate it against itself and what it was attempting to bring to us. So whenever we do this, we always create a unique rating system for every movie that we do. So, Dave, for this one, we're talking, we're just looking at Bring Her Back here. Out of a possible 5 wood chip sandwiches, what do you give Bring Her Back?
I'm struggling to come up with a reason why not to give it 5
Correct.
wood chip sandwiches. Because even if I was to give it 4, there is in fact a wood chip sandwich in this movie. Um, by that estimation, it's got to be at least 5.
Right.
So, what a fucking movie! The Philippou brothers have totally followed up Talk to Me in perfect fashion. I wouldn't be able to say whether I liked one more than the other.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
This thing is 5 wood chip sandwiches. There's not a shot. There's not a line. There's not a story element. There is not a single thing I would change about this movie. The only thing keeping me from gold starring it is I've only seen it 1.5 times right now. And
Yeah.
I think that when I'm emotionally ready, I will go back to this and I will find even more things to love about it. But I think that this movie was brilliantly presented from before the billing blocks of like the production company and stuff. This movie starts with like the grainy VHS.
Yeah.
This is not a cult. Like it starts before it starts. Everything about this movie was geniusly done. I will recommend this one to a lot of people with caveats and trigger warnings of
Definitely.
what
Yeah.
comes with it. This is not one that's going to be for everyone, because there are going to be people that just can't handle this movie because it is so realistic in its approach to so many of these themes. But I 100% agree with you. It's 5 wood chip sandwiches all day long.
There you go. There you have it. So this is a perfect 5 wood chip
Absolutely.
sandwiches. I want to thank those that have stuck through the whole episode. Feel free to chime in whenever you want. While we're recording, we'd love to hear from the audience, from fans. Can we call them fans? I guess
think we can call them fans.
right? Yeah, we've got some more scheduled for you all in October. Some more new horror.
Yes, we've still got new horror. HBO's been good to us with dropping some of the stuff that we've been waiting on. So keep an eye on that. And yeah, like we've got a bunch of new stuff that we're very excited about coming up. So if you're interested in what that's going to be, make sure you head to shiverpod.com, where you can find links to all of our social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of those things at ShiverPod. You can watch us live every Wednesday at 9-ish, 8-ish Central, just kind of depending on how things are going on that particular Wednesday. And you can always go back and watch the episodes on YouTube, download us wherever you find your podcast. And we appreciate each and every one of y'all who listen.
Absolutely. So on behalf of all of us here at Shiver, fright you very much.